It's so crazy how the universe will literally throw so many fucking tests at you before you're about to up level. Before you're about to skyrocket into a brand new fucking timeline, the universe will put every obstacle and person and test in your way to make sure you're ready to become your higher self. I don't know what's going on in the simulation, but over the last month, I felt myself changing internally in the most insane ways. I went through a really toxic situationship, and then after that, something snapped inside of me where all of a sudden my entire reality started to shift. When you change internally and you start to level up internally and your thoughts start to become different and you become internally stronger, your entire version of reality changes. Your entire surroundings start to change. The people around you start to transform. Your relationships will change. People will drop like flies, and you'll start attracting really weird situations that are not coincidences by any means. I do not believe in coincidences, and I'm about to tell you why. So, the last 30 days, I would say, have been the most chaotic, crazy, and miraculous at the same time. I started building a closer relationship with religion and God and just trusting in a higher power. And I was always extremely spiritual my whole life. But ever since I started really becoming closer to God and having a relationship with a higher power that is greater than myself, I feel like these crazy things have started to happen. The universe is going to throw people and old situations and old relationships and old flings and people from your past and situations from your past into your current timeline to prepare you and make sure and test you to ensure that you're really ready for the new version of you, to ensure that you are fully prepared and capable to handle the up level. I'm moving right now, but I lived in a very quiet part of Manhattan. I love it there. It's by the water. I have a lot of privacy where I live. And for some weird reason, I have bumped into at least 6 or 7, maybe 8 people, men from my past that I've had situationships with, or even just small like dating interactions with. If I went on one date with them or 2 dates with them in the past, there was a guy from my college that I bumped into, which I have a really funny story about. And it was the most random occurrence. I've bumped into this guy that I was in a situationship with for 7 or 8 months in 2019, and we started chatting. And that was a really full circle moment because I actually used to have very strong feelings for that person. And to see how far I've come with my growth and to see how far I've come with just the person that I am and seeing how different I feel about him now is mind boggling to me. I have bumped into random people that I haven't seen in years where I'm like, what in the fucking timeline is going on? Because I'm at a place in my life where I know I'm about to make a massive transformation. It's fall. It's that season where I'm putting everything I can into bettering myself, into up leveling, into working on my growth and healing. And I want to make the last few months of the year the most magical and the most incredible. So if you're with me, let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram, first of all, because I would love to hear how you are spending your October, your November. If you're doing anything to work on yourself for the better, to heal, to grow, I would love to hear about it. But for me, my thing is changing my environment, taking risks with the direction of life that I'm heading in, and being more confident in my decision making. That's a huge thing for me. So, as I'm just navigating all of this, as I'm putting more effort into making new decisions, deciding to leave my apartment and move and go to a new place, I'm temporarily going to Bali. We'll see how that goes. All of these people started coming out of the woodworks. And I'm like, what is going on? Why am I bumping into every single fucking person from my past, from college up until now? It is truly remarkable how all of them started appearing. And the weirdest part of all is that they all appeared in my neighborhood. It's not like I was out and about in different parts of Manhattan and I saw them randomly in different spots. I saw all of them in the same 2-block radius of my apartment. So all of them happened to be circling and swarming in my living space. And that's also what propelled me and pushed me to actually make the decision to not re-sign my lease and move, because I took that as a sign that I was outgrowing my space. And all these people from my past were actually symbolic of my past, and that I needed to break the cycle and change my environment and get a change of pace and move on. When I was in college, I had a small crush on this guy, and I think we had maybe kissed once or twice. The last memory I have of us is going to the grocery store together and going food shopping, and I thought this was, like, some amazing date. I guess when you're in college, like, what are you really gonna do? I went to college upstate New York, Binghamton, if anyone if anyone knows where that is. It's very random. There's literally nothing to do there besides meet other people that go to that school, and there's, like, a Walmart and a strip of bars, and then you're basically pretty much isolated. There's literally nothing going on over there. So I was talking to this guy and we were kind of friendly, had some sort of attraction, went grocery shopping together, maybe made out at a bar once, as far as I remember. This was a pretty long time ago. And then I never saw him again, never heard from him again. Graduated college, moved on with my life, completely forgot this man existed. The other day, keep in mind, that was 11 years ago, I think I graduated. Oh, God. Anyways, I was in my apartment a couple of weeks ago, deciding what I wanted to do with my lease, feeling kind of depressed, not really in the best headspace, and I was sitting on my carpet just staring at my wall. And I heard a voice in my head say, "Go outside. Go outside right now." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go outside." And I just heard this voice just kept saying, "Go outside. Just go outside." I'm like, "No, I don't want to go outside." So I ended up going for a walk. And on that walk, I bumped into this guy from college from like 11 years ago. We ended up going on a really long walk and just talking and catching up. And it was like nothing had really changed. You know, we're both much older, but I feel like I always remembered that I had gotten along with him and we had good conversation. It felt fated. And we had been talking about fated connections on the walk that we went on, and it just felt very non-coincidental. We end up taking a 2-hour walk. I go home, and I was like, oh, that was actually really nice. But it just felt symbolic that my past was being dug up for me to see. When you bump into people from your past, you kind of feel like you're digging up old memories and you're digging up old trauma and old wounds in a way. Like, I feel like that moment was a reminder of how far I've come in my life, if that makes sense, because the last time I had saw that person was when I was graduating college. So I was reflecting, I'm thinking about it, and a few days go by and he asks to see me again. So I'm like, yeah, sure. But I wanted to keep it very casual and platonic because I'm not dating anyone right now. I've set a very clear boundary for myself when it comes to relationships. I'm not in dating mode. The next person that I end up with, I want it to be the real thing. I've just been through so fucking much this year that I'm like, I need a break. I need to chill. If it feels right, I'd go with it. But it just felt like memories from the past. I still agreed to meet with him. But the whole weekend, we didn't speak. We weren't really in contact. And then when I did end up seeing him again, I had asked God to block it if it wasn't a good person to hang with. And this is what I've been doing recently when I actually asked God to block the situation if I shouldn't be around this person. And the reason I started doing this is because I don't want to ever waste my time or give my energy away to people that don't genuinely see me for me, or that appreciate me, or that don't appreciate me, or that can't see my value or my worth, or that aren't going to help me become a better version of myself. I don't want to be around anyone that's sucking my energy, draining my power. If you've listened to the last 2 podcast episodes, you know that I'm in a no tolerance era of my life where I'm like, I don't want to waste my time with anyone or anything. So if you're not going to make me feel good, if you're not going to be some sort of great significance in my life in a positive way, I'd rather just not waste my fucking time. So I asked God, remove this person if it's not right, or if I shouldn't be in contact with him. We met up again, and I asked him what he did that weekend. And he's like, oh, I was just mowing the lawn. Excuse me, what? I was like, what do you mean? I can't make this shit up. He's like, I was just mowing the lawn and, mowing that lawn, it's so stressful, it's so tiring. And I'm like, what do you mean you're mowing the lawn? Who mows the lawn in 2024? I mean, I'm joking. Obviously, I know people mow their lawns, but like, is that really what you were up to all weekend? You were mowing your lawn? First of all, we live in Manhattan. What the fuck? Second of all, he told me that he went home to visit family and he was mowing their lawn for 3 days straight. So now I'm like so suspicious. I'm like, this is such a shady, weird, random thing to say. You could have said anything else. You could have said, I was hanging out with my friends. You could have said, I was seeing my parents. But you just decided to say that the whole weekend you were mowing your lawn. And then he couldn't say anything else. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what else did you do? What else did you accomplish this weekend other than mowing your lawn for 3 days straight? Because that doesn't make sense. Something's not adding up here. It was it was so awkward, and I was like, okay, nice. Also, I'm just like, dude, like, I don't know. Something about the way he was talking made me feel like he was being super shady. And I took that moment as the warning sign that I'd asked from God, like, remove this person, because I got not the ick, but I just got so turned off in general. I was like, okay, this guy's lying to me about something, or he's covering up part of the truth, or he doesn't want to completely open up to me about what he did this weekend for whatever reason. And I need direct communication. I need someone who's crystal clear and sweet and honest with pure intentions. And this just doesn't feel, this doesn't feel aligned. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I hope you had a good weekend. Like, I didn't know what to say. I decided that I wanted to go back to my apartment. So I'm walking back and he's like, oh, like, I'll walk you back, whatever. And he's like, what's up? What's going on? I could tell that you're judging me. And I'm like, yeah, because in my head, you mowing the lawn all weekend sounds so sketchy and weird. He's like, I get it. I understand why you would think that. So he was basically admitting to me that it was weird and that it was shady. So I'm like, I don't know what you were doing, if you were seeing a girl and you didn't want to tell me and you didn't want to be direct and honest, but like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't want to date you. I just don't like people who are covering the truth. It just felt really weird and awkward. He really had nothing to say. We're just like staring at each other and I'm like, okay, well, have a good night. And he's like, okay, bye. Never heard from him again. And I'm like, okay, thank you, God, for blocking that and making that awkward, because otherwise maybe I would have hung out with him more. Maybe I would have spent more time with him, invested more energy. It's not even that I was interested. It's just the simple fact that I don't want to even engage with someone who doesn't have the purest intentions. So the whole thing was just super fucking weird. And I'm like, all right, that was one of the weirdest excuses I've ever heard, or weirdest things I've ever heard come out of a guy's mouth as far as lies. And I don't know if he was I don't know what it was. It was bizarre. But anyways, that was one situation that happened. And then the other thing, which is a very inspiring story, and I think this will actually help a lot of people or give people hope. I was telling my best friend about it too, and she was like, you need to tell this story on the podcast, because I'm sure a lot of people are struggling with this concept of like the one that got away. So there was a guy that I was dating for a brief period of time in 2019. He was someone that I thought was like the greatest man to walk Manhattan streets. He was like, to me, the hottest man I've ever seen in my life. And he was British. And I think this is when my thing for British men started, because I could not resist the accent. The accent to me was the sexiest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is so hot. And he was much older than me. He was just that guy that you meet after a serious relationship. So I was in a very serious relationship prior to meeting him. And then you know that situationship that happens after a serious relationship? Well, that was him. And those can often be the most intense and even worse than the relationship that you just went through, because for some reason, it just hits you way harder and you get more emotionally invested. And it's like the first person I really had after a very long period of time with someone. So I fell really hard. I ended up getting pretty attached to him emotionally, and he wanted nothing to do with me. He did not feel the same. I could tell that he wasn't looking for a serious relationship. And he had also communicated that to me early on, that he wasn't looking for anything serious. For me at that time, it started out as fun and casual because that's initially what I had been looking for. But then I got attached, as we all do, and as we've all been there. So I am like kind of like super invested in this person, but I wanted to play it cool. And I knew that he didn't really feel the same. So I was always trying to like play it as cool as I could and play it detached. And yeah, I'm this like chill girl, but in reality, I really liked him. And I don't even think he understood the extent to which I actually had feelings for him. When it ended, I was so upset and so heartbroken, and I didn't know how to handle it maturely. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was crying for like 2 months straight. I actually really like I was heartbroken. I actually think I fell in love with the idea of him. I don't even know if I fell in love with him, but it was the idea of him that I fell in love with, and that attachment, and just him being this guy after my serious relationship. It was just a combination of everything. And I always had him in the back of my mind as like this guy that got away, like the one that got away and my soulmate and whatever. Even though I knew it wasn't right, obviously, I just think I was young. I didn't understand what love really was. I didn't understand my value. I didn't know who I was. I hadn't grown into the woman that I am today. So there was a lot of immaturity mixed in with that for me on my end. I think I was like very emotionally immature. My perception of him was so distorted because I didn't love myself back then. I didn't value myself. I didn't have boundaries. So you combine someone that has zero boundaries and doesn't really love themselves enough with someone who's detached and doesn't really give a fuck. And it's just like a lethal combination. When you're in a really vulnerable state and you meet someone at that state, you get very hooked. You get very emotionally invested. And he had this like emotional chokehold on me. I don't know what it is either. I really have no idea to this day what type of weird karmic connection I have with this man, because there wasn't anything significant that I could think of that made him so special or that made the relationship special. It was always very casual, but I just couldn't shake him. I couldn't fucking shake this man for the life of me. He was in my dreams randomly. He would just show up at random times, like in the middle of the street. I would see him. I saw him out at a restaurant with one of my friends. I'm like, what is going on? What is my connection to this person? Recently, I bumped into him. He actually lives near me, or lived near me, and I hadn't seen him in a while, but we had a conversation for the first time in person in years, like an actual face-to-face conversation. And we just talked about life. And we talked about how things have changed, how some things have stayed the same. I was sitting on a bench with him, staring at the sky, thinking about my whole life, reflecting on the person that I've become over the last few years, looking at him, then looking at the sun, and just realizing that nothing was ever that deep, and nothing is really that serious, and nothing really matters. And the whole time I had been grieving this person and like thinking of the what if and thinking he was someone that got away and all this shit, I realized in my mind, none of it mattered anymore. And life moved on and time heals. When you truly learn the power of self-love and what it means to really love yourself, and then you learn more about what love is from others because you love yourself more. And I truly believe the more you love yourself, the more you understand the type of love that you want and deserve. Because I've come so far with my healing journey, sitting next to him was like sitting next to a complete ghost. I was just like, what the fuck is happening? This was everything I had wanted years ago. He was everything I wanted years ago. I wanted this person. I had strong feelings for him. I thought I was in love with him. And now I'm sitting here next to him, realizing that none of that's even true. I think I painted this fantasy in my head of what I thought it could be, but in reality, it never would have worked. It never would have been what I thought it was going to be. It was this fantasy that I had crafted up in my head for the last 5 years. And when I came to that realization, it felt like a chapter had ended, and it felt like a karmic cycle had finally closed. And it was like, it literally felt like the biggest cycle moment where I was like, this cycle has just come to an end. And it was so symbolic. And it wasn't just that moment or the moment with the guy from college, it just everything collectively over the last month has felt like this major karmic cycle for me in relationships, knowing my worth and learning the power of self-love. All of it has come full circle, and all of these little moments and people popping up from my past have made me realize how far I've come in my healing journey, and now I'm ready for the next level of my life. I felt like having conversations and run-ins with people from my past has shown me that now everything is closed. I've tied up loose ends. I've gotten my closure. I've gotten what I've needed out of these situations. And now it's time for the next level of my life. Now it's time to skyrocket, baby. Now it's time. It's freedom fall. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to say it till the whole world's saying it. It's freedom fall. And I felt like a part of myself had been set free after these run-ins, because there's always those little what ifs in the back of your head. What could have been, you know? What could have that turned into if I had been a little more chill, or if I hadn't said what I had said, or if I hadn't made those mistakes that I had made? But in reality, everything does happen for a reason. And I'm here today on this episode to tell you that everything is happening for you and not working against you. God wants to see you thrive, and he wants to create a very beautiful future for you. And if you are holding on to memories from the past, if you're beating yourself up over the way you handled a past situation, if you feel like you lost the love of your life and you have all these regrets, you have to understand that everything is happening for you and not working against you, even if you can't physically see it right now. All of these little situations over the last month have really proved that to me more than ever. It's also given me the confirmation I needed to really let go of New York temporarily. And it doesn't mean that's forever. I do believe that New York will always be the most magical place for me. And I grew up here, and I've had so many memories here, and I've had so many stories and chapters here. But even if it's temporary, I think closing the cycle also meant closing the chapter on Manhattan, which is like kind of sad to say it out loud, but I think I just need a little break away from the city. I think it'll be really healthy for me and my brain, and just to reset and refresh and give myself the opportunity and chance to start a new chapter of my life, which is really cool. Also, I want you to take something very important away from this, which is, if you feel like your life is burning to the ground right now, if you feel like you're crumbling and nothing is making sense, if you feel like you're losing people left and right, if you feel like you've lost your job, or you just feel lost in general and nothing seems to be working in your favor, I want you to understand that sometimes the universe will break things down for you, and God will break things down for you in order to build you back up even better. I went through the most mentally exhausting 2 months, and it's part of the reason I have to leave New York, because I feel like I genuinely need time to really, really rebuild myself properly. And being in an environment where I've been broken so many times, I need a new environment to heal. But if I could give you any piece of advice, is to keep going, keep your faith, stay strong, and understand that sometimes you need to be broken down in order to be built back up again, even better and stronger and more empowered. I could say now I'm coming into my power in an entirely new way. I feel like a brand new fucking woman. I really do. I have firmer boundaries. I'm more confident in my speaking. I feel more sure of my decision making. I feel more guided by my intuition. I feel like the world is working in my favor more than ever, because I'm actually sitting back and letting shit come to me, and I'm trusting. I'm trusting the fucking process. You need to trust the process. If you're going through a really difficult time, stick it out. Trust that it's happening for you and not against you. The other thing is, when you let go and you surrender and you understand when you're going through the most difficult times, this is when you need to trust and let go and surrender the most. Things start to open up for you. New doors and timelines will open up for you, even if it takes a little time. I promise you, I can promise you with all my heart that magical shit will start to happen if you surrender to the process, if you surrender to the chaos, if you're like, what the fuck is going on in my life right now? My life is exploding like a fucking volcano and I don't know where to turn, what to do. I don't know what's flying. Surrender to it. God knows better than you do and is putting you on a specific mission and path because he knows better than you do and he knows where he's guiding you. When I was deciding if I wanted to stay in New York or not, I was going batshit crazy in my mind. Like, I was losing it. I was going back and forth in my head. One day I would wake up and be like, I love New York. I can't leave. The next day I'd be like, oh my God, I need to get the fuck out of here. I'm traumatized. And it was going like this in my head, back and forth, back and forth. And I couldn't make a decision and I was losing it. And so I was even asking the universe for signs. I was like writing in my notes. And sometimes this method has worked for me where I'll ask for a sign and I'll get it right away. But in this situation, I wasn't getting any answers. I was just getting confusion and I wasn't getting any clear guidance. And I felt like I was scared of making the wrong decision. What I realized is there is no wrong decision. Sometimes you just have to make a decision and then make the decision right. And I heard someone say this somewhere, and that quote always stuck with me, and I want to credit them properly, but I really don't know who said it. So if you know who said it, tag them in the comments or write it on Spotify, whatever, so I can properly credit them. The quote was, if you can't make a decision, just choose one and then make that decision right. And if you want to change your mind later on, if you feel like you've made a mistake and you want to redirect your path, you can do that, but just make the decision. And there's actually a really good podcast episode about this too from a guy I really love, Ed Milet. He has amazing content and it's very motivational. And one of his episodes talks about decision making as well. He's also said this in his podcast. Make the decision and then make the decision right and be confident in that decision and go with full force into that decision. The greatest leaders in the world and the greatest business people in the world have really good decision making skills, and they'll make a decision sometimes right on the spot. And if it's the wrong decision, you could always course correct. And I really needed that advice because I used to be the most indecisive fucking person in the world. And over time, I've had to develop a skill to get better at decision making. I was going nuts about this decision whether to leave New York or not. Suddenly, I heard a voice say, set yourself free. Set yourself free. Freedom is a top priority for you. And it's worth it to take the risk and then have to course correct later on than to just repeat the same patterns and cycles and routines right where you are. If you have the window of opportunity to take a risk, take the fucking risk. This is who you are. You love your freedom. Go on an adventure. Take yourself on a trip. Take yourself on a journey and see where it takes you. And maybe you can learn from it. And if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. And, you know, in 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. But do something different. Step outside of your comfort zone. Stepping outside of your comfort zone is going to be fucking terrifying. It's going to be scary. It's going to make you go crazy. And I realized my brain was just trying to keep myself safe. Because when you step outside of your comfort zone and your brain is used to operating in a certain routine, my brain is just operating from a place of always being in New York, always having a home base in Manhattan. I grew up here. So it's a comfort zone, right? So my brain was just going like this. And I was so anxious. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fuck my life up if I move. I don't know what to do. And I made my decision based off of doing something that was going to terrify me, which is giving up my place and going somewhere entirely new. And it wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right decision. And I know it was the right decision because the last night that I was in my apartment for the very last time, it was just me and my mattress on the floor. All of my furniture was gone. The apartment was completely empty. And I just started bawling my eyes out. It was happy tears because I felt like I had freed myself of another cycle. I had freed myself of a pattern. I freed myself from the routine. I freed myself and my soul without even realizing it. Because when you're used to something for so long, when you are in your comfort bubble for so long, when you do the same things over and over again, it's so easy to get stuck in fear because you're comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with being comfortable. There's nothing wrong with having a good routine. And in fact, at some points in your life, it's very important to have that structure. But it just felt like it was time. And it was my fear that was getting in the way of me leaving New York. And once again, I'm not saying I'm leaving New York forever. I just needed a break and I needed to get out of my current apartment. But it was still really scary to make that move. For some reason, it felt like I was letting go of a past life and letting go of my past self as part of that decision. And I had a lot of memories in my apartment. My ex was living with me in that apartment. And then I found out that he was living a double life and was cheating on me. So had a lot of traumatic memories in that apartment. And then the guy that I was seeing most recently from London, if you haven't listened to my other episodes, go listen and catch yourself up because that's a fucking tale to remember. He had stayed with me in my apartment, which was a huge mistake, but then I had memories of that energy lingering in there. And your apartment and your living space is your safe space. It's your home. You don't want to feel traumatized coming back to your home. I saged that fucking apartment more times than I can count. And I was like, you know what? I shouldn't have to be saging my apartment every fucking day to feel okay living in my space. And my space is a place where I want to come home and feel safe. I want my inner child to feel at peace. And if my lease is up and I have the opportunity to leave, I should probably go. So all of these things were tied into my decision, but I was bawling my eyes out on the last night because I realized I had freed myself of the past, freed myself of the old patterns and toxic cycles. And I'm ready. I'm ready for a new chapter. And I hope that message can inspire you to also prepare yourself and not be afraid to take a leap of faith and change up your life and take risks. And if you feel called, if your soul feels called to change your life, to not be afraid to take any risks, because even me, I feel like I am a big risk taker and I don't think things through that much comparatively to other people that I know. It's still scary for me. So I can only imagine what it would feel like for someone who's never left their job and they're not happy, or they've never left their environment or whatever it is. It's so life altering and rattling. Your body will literally go into fight or flight mode and shock because it's like, what's happening? Why are you taking me out of the familiar? And you'll literally go crazy temporarily. And I didn't think it was going to affect me that much, but I was struggling. Finally, when I had gone through with the decision, I burst into happy tears and I was like, I'm free. I heard my inner child be like, thank you. Like, thank you so much for trusting and doing this for us. I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Yeah. Because you deserve to be happy. And you deserve to feel free. You deserve for your soul to feel free and excited to wake up every day. And I know that if I hadn't made the decision, I would have probably suffered greatly just being in the bed that me and my ex slept in every night, being in the space that we were walking around together in every day, and a combination of other things too. But I think I didn't realize how badly and negatively it was subconsciously affecting me. And I needed to get out. I needed to break free and let go of that last piece of the puzzle. So yeah, I'm really excited, but also just like the inner child thing for me, just hearing that voice in my head, like a young version of me being like, thank you, Liz, for taking the risk and changing my life, because changing your life, because all beautiful things come out of taking risks and taking those leaps of faith. And I truly believe that, and I'll stand by that, because every time I've stepped out of my comfort zone, beautiful new experiences have happened to me. Beautiful new things have fallen into place. And I'm just so excited to take you guys along with me on my new life chapter. And with that being said, That concludes today's episode of Date Yourself Instead. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to the podcast. I'm really loving the videos. If you love them too, always send me your feedback on Instagram at Liz or on my podcast account at Date Yourself Instead. And also be sure to check out my master classes, Dare to Detach, and the new program, the Mind, Body, Soul Reset, coming out so soon. I am so excited. Dare to Detach is a program that is designed to help you detach and let go of the bullshit or anyone or anything weighing you down in your life. I'm sure you've seen it all over my Instagram. If you want more information, you could go to the Instagram at Dare to Detach for all the details. If you are looking to break free from a toxic cycle or relationship, or you're just looking to up level and better your life in general, Dare to Detach is for you. It's a 4-day program. You get full access to the materials forever once you download it. And there's an amazing community of over 4,000 members that are all learning how to heal and up level together. And the new Mind, Body, Soul Reset program is a masterclass that focuses on health and wellness, spirituality, through the power of meditation, quantum leap exercises, and so much more. I love this class in particular because it ties health and wellness into spirituality, into bettering yourself. And I feel like there's not that much out there that combines both. I truly believe with all my heart that health and wellness is such a big part of why I am where I am today. I do believe that your physical fitness and taking care of your soul and nourishing your body with the right foods and exercise and movement on a daily basis will actually build your internal confidence and will actually make you stronger and mentally more capable of taking on everything in your life and becoming the greatest version of you. So that is where the Mind, Body, Soul Reset program stems from. And I'm so excited for it to come out. If you want more information, also be sure to follow at Mind, Body, Soul Reset on Instagram, or send me a message on Instagram at Liz if you have any questions. I love you. Thank you as always again for listening, and stay tuned for next Monday.